Alrighty, we're on the final challenge, and quite frankly, the most complicated one. So let's dive into it together and walk through working with an array of objects. So here we have an array of objects called cart. Cart, if we look at the objects inside, have an object, all of them match in their properties. They have a name, a quantity, and a price. So let's look at what's expected of us. Log, well, we know that word. Each, well, each probably means a loop, item in the cart with its quantity. Okay, so I'm going to kind of collapse this again, save myself a little bit of line so when I scroll down here I can still see both the cart and the code I'm writing. So let's drop down, and we know each means loop. So I'm going to start by typing for, and I'm going to again use that tab complete to try and fill out some of the code or make it easier on me. So when I hit tab, I get the let index, index less than array length, index plus plus, const element equals array at index. So I'm going to start by changing my variable to I. You can keep it as index, and that's again one of those banana words, but more often in the industry we'll use I to represent the shortened version of index. I'll hit tab. And now, what array am I iterating over? Well, again, this has to be a variable in memory. The variables in memory I have available are student, cart, and my variable. So of course we want to iterate over the cart, so I'm going to change the word array to cart. I'll hit tab again. What is each element within the collection? You can again leave this as element, but I'm going to change it to item, indicating that each thing within this array is essentially an item. Now, by getting good naming convention here, these next step are pretty easy. It makes it pretty easy, is maybe a strong word. It's easier because we're using common language that we understand as humans, not necessarily how computers access things. But I feel it's important to call out. When I say cart at I, and that's when I use these square brackets, so you usually use the term in my head, at. Cart at I is represented by the value 0. So if I change this to hard code over to 0, essentially I'm saying the cart array at position 0. On the next iteration, when I becomes 1, cart at position 1, which is now this entire object. So while this step right here isn't fully necessary, let me put this back to I, while it's not 100% fully necessary, what it does do for us is it gives us the ability to use item to reference whatever object I'm at within the iteration. And you'll see in this next step how it becomes much easier to use. So when I say log, oops, I need to put a dot there on accident. Let's say log. I can say, okay, we want to print out each item in the cart with its quantity. So I'm going to maybe make this a little bit cleaner. I'm going to say item.name. We remember from before we can use comma to separate two words. Item.quantity. Let's save that and check our console. When I refresh, I get peanut butter 1, strawberry jam 1, bread 2, milk 1. Awesome. Working as desired. Now, the next step says log the cart total. I want to know the total price of all items in the cart. So as I'm looping over it, when I look at each item, I need to keep a running total. Let me show you what you might be tempted to do, but it would ultimately be a mistake. If here I declare, I need some way of keeping track of a total. So that says I need to make another space in memory. So let's make one with let total equal 0, starting out our total at 0. After printing the item, I can simply say, hey, let's go ahead and increase total with the plus equals sign. If I use equals, it reassigns the value. If I say plus equals, it increases the value. So increase the value by item's price property. And you might think, okay, great, this is all fine and dandy. But if I put log total here, what I'll see is after each printing of the item, it only prints that item's price. Okay, well, I only want it to print one time, so let's pull that outside of the loop. Save that. Immediately it's mad at me and says, hey, I don't know what total is. So one thing you're also going to have to do is you're going to have to bring total outside of the loop. Now, I want to call out one more thing that you may not have caught if you didn't catch that error otherwise. Doing it this way, at the end of every loop, the code inside these two brackets is essentially removed from memory. So if I said total equals 0 inside of here, and I increase the total on line 42, by the time line 43 hits, it comes back up and increases. The variable in memory, total, has been blown away. It doesn't exist outside of that loop, and that's why this one is mad as well. So always remember, if you have to persist something between iterations in a loop, make sure you declare that variable before you start the loop. So here I've declared the variable 0, I'm still printing their name, and in each iteration I increase the total price. Let's go ahead and check it out. 806, which is essentially the total of all the items in our cart. Now, one other small kicker here. That's technically the price of each item, but I have 2 loaves of bread. So the price is actually a little bit higher than what was printed out as the single price of each of these things. So I need to remember, when I'm working with this item price and increasing the total, quantity plays a factor. So I'm going to say times item.quantity. When I save that and I jump out here and refresh, we'll see my price is actually $9.64. All right, well, that wraps up line 5, and we were able to successfully log each item to the cart with its quantity and log the cart total. That's it. That's all we need you to do. We want you to be able to come in and go through all this that we did here today with us. The questions will be different and the requirements will be slightly changed, but if you've made it through this, you're feeling comfortable and confident, you're absolutely ready to come in for your technical interview. I would encourage you once more, pull down the code and go through the video that starts you off and try this on your own. We have another set of practice questions for you to go through to kind of review and study guide. They're a little bit more in-depth in some spots and a little less in others. But go through that. If you feel comfortable in there, you will definitely be ready to join us on your journey learning to code. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.